The first and foremost metrics every sales team would track is the total revenue, be it the MRR or the ARR, right? And a few other important metrics that adds value to the selling are total number of deals that you lose to your competitors, and activity metrics like number of calls you make, number of emails you're sending, number of demos that are made, number of meetings that are set, number of meetings that are rescheduled, number of follow-ups being made. So these are all activity metrics which plays a very important role for a successful sales team.
If you're looking to 10x your career growth, then download the Seco app. Sign up for 30 days free trial and get access to 500 plus recorded courses. Check the link in description.
So, okay, guys, welcome back to the 101 session with the thought leader. And today we have none other than Francis. So, Francis is actually working right now in Freshworks. But before I actually dive more into Francis' profile, since he's right here with me, Francis, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi everyone, I'm Francis Cyrus, and been into sales for a decade now. Predominantly into SaaS and technology, sales. I've for the past 5 years, I've been into selling in the Africa region. Has been, can't ask for even more challenging market. So just loving sales has been my passion, and things are, pretty much cool for the past 5 years now.
Awesome, great. So really looking forward to our, insightful conversations, Francis. The reason being is because obviously, there are certain people who get afraid from sales. And since you mentioned you have been in sales for over a decade, you're like a perfect person that we can ask you about the basic tips and things related to the domain. So before we dive into the main discussion, Francis, we have a rapid fire that we prepared for you. So, as it's the simple rapid fire, I simply ask you a question. What is the first thing that comes to your mind? So you have to answer it within the next 2 to 5 seconds. So you ready?
Yep, ready.
Okay, cool. All right. So the first question that I have for you is, if given a chance to take an interview of a famous personality, who would that be?
I would love to interview Mr. Narendra Modi. Been a huge inspiration, and definitely.
Awesome, great. So the second question that I have for you is that moment or a book or a person or even a conversation which changed the way you look at things. What was it?
My first travel to Africa. That whole journey changed my perspective about what is sales and what is really important. At that moment of me traveling to Africa for the first time. That's what I would say.
Nice, great. So the third one, Francis, is the one deal closure that you would remember for a lifetime. Which one was that?
Might not be able to mention the name, but it was a microfinance bank in Nigeria, there's a huge story, to it, but closing it in the last day of a quarter, a huge opportunity with so much of travel constraints, was one deal that I would definitely remember to my.
So I myself, I'm actually just would like to add, I myself am a sales and business development professional. So, I completely agree. There is this one unique thing or one unique deal that we remember throughout the lifetime. I have that too. So I clearly recall to, this thing. So Francis, moving on to the fourth one right away. One life lesson you learned and tell almost every other person about. What is that?
Being consistent in whatever you do, whatever small thing that you think is going to give results, if you be really consistent in that, for sure you can expect results out of it. That's one thing that I want to say.
Absolutely. So, and the last one, Francis, that we have for you is, this is a little personal, but still, the toughest interview that you have cracked still, as in until now, that you still remember. What is it? As in, which profile was it?
Definitely, it was my interview into Freshworks. It was I can still remember all the questions that I had. It was definitely not a typical sales interview. It was more of understanding the personality itself. I was literally sweating, in the interview room, but I still, moments to cherish. It's been like 5 years now, but I can still remember that.
Got it. Great. So, Francis, we are done with the rapid fire round. So, this is it. You did superb with respect to rapid fires. Loved your answers. And now we are moving on to the main discussion of the session. So, to start with, Francis, with respect to sales as a profession, right? So, very first thing, like I rightly said, whenever you talk to people about sales, I know that we are really target oriented. We have to meet targets, deadlines. These are some things that a sales professional has to be abide by, and they have to follow it through in and out, right? But at the same point in time, what would your advice be on how to stand out as a sales professional?
Got it. Standing out as a sales professional is, it doesn't involve any complex, things to go behind. I'll sort it out with 5 things that I follow, which I learned from my mentors in this career. First thing is show up on time. Be it whatever the reason might be, traffic, bad internet connectivity. I'm sorry, I was held up in my previous conversation. These are all excuses that anybody can give. But if you have to stand out, you will have to consider all these and ensure that you show up on time. Be it an in-person meeting or a phone, a call, right? Second thing is take notes. Carry a notepad or any gadget that you have, and make sure that you take notes on every meeting that you do. 2 things it's going to help you. One is it's going to make you definitely look more responsible. They'll definitely understand that you value that meeting a lot. Second thing is it's going to help you a lot to get back to understand, to make sure that you have all the points, requirements all gathered in one single place. And then third thing is please do make sure that you do your homework before getting into a meeting. Any unprepared meeting is definitely gonna take a huge hit on your personality itself. And then fourth thing is be very quick in responding. However, acknowledgement or whatever it is, please respond to your customers, prospects on time. And if you have committed to a time, make sure that even if that your deliverable is not ready, go back to them and ask for additional time. It will show that you value them a lot. And the last thing, which you might not have heard elsewhere, but this is something that I follow religiously. Be a master of your inbox. So I mean, make sure you do a frequent check of your inbox. Once in 2 days, once in 3 days, or at least once in a week. Go back to your backdated emails, sent mails, drafts, whatever it is, and validate it. Block some time in your calendar and do a proper validation of your inbox. That'll definitely take you places and make you stand out as a sales guy.
Those were, I must say, Francis. So while I was going through, I remembered my old days when I was, as a sales professional, and it was like I was being re-spoken to again. I was just living that moment, because these are exactly the things that helps a sales professional stand out. So that was a brilliant answer, I must say. So Francis, moving on to the next one. This is a little, the question or the talking point is a little related to the still a sort of a confusion which is between a business development role and a sales role, right? So I know that they are the same coin. It's just that they both are the faces of one coin. One is the right and the other one is a different one, right? So if you can help us or the audience in very simply differentiating as to what is the role of a business development person, and at the same point in time, how is it different from a sales guy, or is it like unique thing?
Sure thing. So, business development and sales all belong to the same function, right? End of the day, they're going to make sales happen, right? But business development comes into the sales cycle at a pretty early stage, right? They are the door openers. Various companies use different terms. It can be called as a sales development or a business development. So their primary aim is to qualify opportunities and add up to the pipeline, right? So I would call them as the door openers for your business, right? So it's very important. A very well executed business development will ensure that the sales cycle is so smooth, the sales cycle is shortened, and the sales reps can concentrate on value selling. So I would say business development as the pipeline generators or the door openers, while sales reps are the deal closers. So that's how I would define differentiate between business development and sales.
Absolutely, I completely agree with this one once again. So, and I remember, just to second you on the same front, there was this study that was actually done by Oxford about the same thing, and I clearly remember this that there was an article that clearly stated that this. So, if we look back, almost like a decade ago, we never heard about a role like BD, right? We always heard about a role of sales primarily. And when this came in the picture, so the people actually found out that there were certain people who were really good with finding opportunities, but not really good with sales, wherein the other were actually pretty good with closing the deals. So that's how the bifurcation happened, and the two designation came in the picture. It's just like you said, they're the faces of a single coin.
Faces of a single.
So I agree with you over there. So, this is a little unique with your specific domain, Francis. The next question, this is a little add-on question, but we are really intrigued to understand as to how does a SaaS sales looks like. If you can help us a little bit over there.
Definitely. So when it comes to SaaS sales, it's all MRR or ARR terms like monthly recurring revenues or annual recurring revenues, right? So it is selling a subscription to a customer, right? And the differences or majorly is the sales cycles are much shorter. They would there is a good trial that the evaluation is completely different when compared to other products. So it's a when it comes to SaaS selling, it's a very fast, rapid environment wherein shorter sales cycles, but the value and huge competition again, and you definitely have to sell value, because the competitive pricing margins will be very less, so you cannot use pricing as a as a selling point. So you'll have to really sell value, and obviously people buy from people, so you have to stand out as a sales guy to showcase the value and the benefit of the product. So that's how different the SaaS selling is in the market.
Absolutely. So this moves me to the next one, Francis. That since you are now towards the next level, in a leadership role of the sales domain. So your advice for people who are actually aiming to be there, and they are trying their level best to move where you are right now. So your advice on how to be a successful. We have already understood what a sales professional, the advice that you gave. So now, how about an advice to be a successful sales manager or a sales leader?
Got it. So obviously, most of the sales managers would have been an individual contributor, when they started their career, right? So I always wanted a few things from my manager, and I would say that's where you'll have to take the inspiration, and you'll have to be the manager that you always wanted, to have one, right? So first thing is have a lot of integrity, and stand by your word. As a manager, if you've committed something to your team, you have to stand by that. That is one first point that I would say to become a very good manager, right? Second thing is, as a manager, you would have to take risks, and you have to own it up. Particularly, you have to own the outcomes of that risk. That's very important as a manager. You can never, play the blame game when it comes to being a manager. Third one is always focus on the bigger picture than all the short, outcomes. There might be, some setbacks in your team. Always look at the larger picture when it comes to managing the team. Another thing is always be a value add to an individual contributor. For example, I've always felt, right, as a manager, let's say as an individual contributor, let's say I'm taking an off. Any typical person would say that it's okay, fine, cancel all your meetings. But a very good manager, would always want to step in and say that, hey, why don't I take all the calls for you today, right? In this, two things you are achieving. One is there is no backlog for the account executive when he comes back, resumes his work. And the second thing is you also get to be an individual contributor for a day. So simple steps like this would make you a very good manager, right? And last thing is always seek advice and ask for feedback. You follow all this and you will definitely make a very good manager.
So this actually, your answer clearly stated why you are there on the leadership role. You clearly gave a transparent picture. So great. So moving on to the next one, Francis, is so we have already, we are talking a lot about, some key things that you should keep in mind, be it professionals, be it managers. So if, as per you, some key tips as to, how you should, because we already spoke about the sales is always to be, I think, consistent. And when you have to be consistent, at the same point in time, there is a pressure which is involved, within that consistency to maintain it, to, keep pushing ahead. So, a little bit of a tip from you probably on how to push sales team to outperform, because at times since I actually am able to relate to all your answers, I've been there. So you at times have to think out of the box to get that thing and that deal and the closure that, we are aiming for. So the advice as per you as to how to push a sales team to outperform, but at the same point in time meet the targets and keep them motivated. That's like a tough trio, that I actually call that. You push, you be consistent, and you keep the team motivated. So probably what's your tip over here?
Definitely. In general, most of the organizations would have quarterly, targets or half yearly and annual, right? But if you really want the team to outperform internally, you'll have to set smaller goals, right? Maybe a weekly goal or a bi-weekly goal, and also celebrate every small win, right? Celebrate the first win for the quarter. Celebrate the largest or the fastest closer in your team. So setting smaller goals and celebrating each and every goal would definitely help the team to outperform, as well as keep the team motivated. Second thing is be a real mentor. When you run a team, it's you don't have to wait for the month end or the quarter end to do a review of how much did you go and how much did you not achieve. Instead, try to be with the team and get into the specifics, so that if the team if a person doesn't achieve his target, there is no last minute surprises. From the beginning that this is what is going to happen, right? And the last thing that I want to say is success is very contagious, right? So if you have a team that's closely knitted, that parties outside office, right, they will celebrate each and everyone's success. So there is no jealousy within the team members if someone raises. So it'll always be a team effort. So ensure that you have a team that is closely knitted, so that you perform as a team rather than compete within the team.
That's a really important, tips actually to with respect to team building and how to go ahead. So this is definitely going to help a lot of people. I can sense that right away. So moving on to the next question, Francis, we are almost coming to an end. So since we already talked about, you shared a lot of about how one should perform, the key things to keep in mind while you are being a manager or a sales professional. But just a basic insight, this is actually a sort of a question primarily for the CCO, for the people who want to actually start their profession as a sales profession, and they want to just grab an insight as to what really happens in a, what are the basic metrics that are involved in sales. So if you can talk about a little bit on the metrics to keep in mind before a person can head into the sales team. So what would they be and what they should be aware of?
Got it. So the first and foremost metrics every sales team would track is the total revenue, be it the MRR or the ARR, right? And a few other important metrics that adds value to the selling are total number of deals that you lose to your competitors, and activity metrics like number of calls you make, number of emails you're sending, number of demos that are made, number of meetings that are set, number of meetings that are rescheduled, number of follow-ups being made. So these are all activity metrics which plays a very important role for a successful sales team, right? And definitely not just the the closures. You also have to look at the amount of pipeline that is generated for the consecutive months or the quarters, right? And another important metric would be the average length of a sales cycle. So once you get these metrics, you'll be able to better forecast your pipeline, forecast your closures, and you can definitely be a better sales team or a sales member in your career.
Absolutely. So this brings me, so now we have actually talked a lot about, covered almost every aspects of sales. So now we would love to hear from you. So sales is not just sales, right? We have to also understand the market. People usually don't forget about that important part too. So, so as per you, probably based on your experience of a decade, so can you share about, how to actually devise the best go-to-market strategy?
Sure. So, as the name suggests, go-to-market strategy, the first thing I'll say is go to the market, right? Understand the market. Talk to the locals, talk to your users, right? Talk to people who have already, gone to the market. So, understanding the market plays a very important role when it comes to, GTM strategies. Then it is you'll have to start building your brand equity. So once you go to the market, once you explore, once you know the lay of the land, then start building your brand equity. And then the third thing is you'll have to find a sweet spot. You cannot just throw stones and expect throw stones everywhere and expect marbles to fall, right? You will have to find a sweet spot and try to address that particular market, that particular industry, or that particular target audience, right? And then you also have to find all the possible entries, right? Also, for all possible entry points, that is one key important thing. And then the last one is you'll have to identify what your competitive advantage is, because that is where if you follow all these, I would say this is how an effective go-to-market strategy is devised altogether. And follow all this, and you're good to go.
Great. So now that we actually have an insight directly from a person who has been in the sales industry for over a decade, Francis. So now, if you can help a little bit on devising a marketing campaign, which could be, which could actually help a lot. I know that this is actually a pain point too. People experiment a lot, and that's although we know it. That's the key, that you have to keep experimenting. But at the same point in time, what's the right thing, or what is the right way to go about and design the typical ideal marketing campaign?
Got it. So for an ideal marketing campaign, first is defining goals and KPIs for that market campaign. Right. So what's your expected response rate? What's your who are you targeting? What's your goal? What is your what are all the KPI metrics that you would want to measure out of this market? So that is one thing very important. Second thing is making deciding on what all channels are you gonna do this marketing campaign. Is it an SMS or an email blast, or are you gonna conduct any events and so on and so forth. Third is obviously you'll have to plan the budget ahead because the marketing budgets are always freezed at an annual level. So ensure that you have enough budget, in your kitty before going all hands, into the marketing campaign. Then the one important thing is the content. Make it as personalized as possible because once if the content is personalized, you're already halfway through your success and goals. So this is how you define a very good marketing campaign.
So the last point was actually a cherry on the cake. So I agree with that one important point that you mentioned. Do not miss out and take for granted the content. Moving ahead to the next talking point, Francis, is a really critical one. It's a very debatable one, and many of the sales professionals still struggle with it. It's about nurturing your leads and then converting them. This is something that we as sales professionals have to expertise in. So, what are your key hacks on how to nurture the leads the right way?
Got it. There is one thing that I would want to emphasize. If you want to nurture your lead, don't consider it as a lead. Be their friend, right? Become a friend of that particular contact, right? As a salesperson, we always tend to be pushy, or we at least, they think that, okay, this person is calling, he's going to sell me something, right? You'll have to come out of that box and, remove the salesman's hat and wear the hat of a friend, right? Genuine friend I'm talking about, because that is where real nurture comes into place. And like I think I've already told this, people buy from people, and and definitely people don't buy from salespersons, right? So if you really become a very good friend and try to help him with some content, say a hi, hello, see if he or she is comfortable, connect with them through different channels. Never ever spam a lead thinking it's you're nurturing. Definitely you're doing the other way. You're doing some negative marketing and they're just gonna fly away from you. So being a friend is where you nurture a lead.
That was a beautifully portrayed answer, Francis. So I completely relate to this one because we as sales, you very rightly mentioned, we as sales people, we often tend to be, we have to be salesy, we have to do the right pitch, we have to do this, we have to do that, but we forget the basic essence that you have to understand that person is a human being and we would obviously buy from a human being, right? So I think that's one key important thing that you really highlighted. Loved it. So Francis, this is like the second last question. I'm almost running out of my questions now. So the second last one that I have for you is, this is with respect to just removing that sort of a fear or that foggy layer which is there with respect to sales profession, and like I said, you're the best fit right now on Seco with respect to this. So can you also demystify a few common misconceptions which are actually there for a sales professional or a sales domain?
Yeah, definitely. One common misconception would be you have to be an extrovert to be in sales. No, not at all. Right? I'm definitely not an extrovert. More than even introverts can become very good salespeople. All you need is more than talking. You need to listen a lot, right? Someone who listens well can make a very good salesperson. Another misconception would be sales is all about numbers. No. Sales is all about people. It's definitely not all about numbers. Then this one is quite cool. Salespeople lie a lot. I've had this comment, right? Even my wife, at times, if I pull something, she says, "Don't bring your sales techniques into home," right? But no, you don't have to lie to be a very good sales guy, right? If you lie on the long run, of course, you might have some success in the beginning, right? You can oversell, and see some success, but on the long run, you will be trademarked as a pushy sales guy, and you will not succeed in the long run. Be very genuine, and be very upfront. It might take time being, if you don't, if you're being very genuine and upfront to sell it, but people will value you. Customers are nowadays, or not nowadays, always customers. You cannot fool around with all the overselling techniques. You don't have to lie in sales.
I agree. So, the three that you actually mentioned are actually the most relevant, and even I have heard, and I think the very first is someone I was able to relate to. That I myself am an introvert. I do not like crowds and talking to people. But at the same point in time, I've got this, that you're a great listener, because introverts are a great listener, right? And that's what helps us in becoming a better sales professional. So I'm with you on this, Francis. So second me on that one. So this brings me to the very last question, Francis, is that now that we have almost covered every aspect of sales, and you have actually answered it brilliantly. So the last thing would be, how would you actually guide others to actually choose sales as a profession? And at the same point in time, people, while they get afraid, but they do not see the benefits of the long run. But what are the actual rewards associated with it in the long run?
Sure. First thing, if you're really passionate about selling, there are a wide variety of opportunities lying in front of you. Every industry needs sales, right? So I would say, always pick an industry that is fast growing, right? Because that's where you get into, or you can experience a very challenging environment. So if you want to get into sales, if you are passionate about sales, pick a fast growing technology or an industry, and obviously get into it. It's a huge learning, right? If there is one job that is you get you get to learn on the job, right? That's definitely sales. So you become, and if there is one job that is not monotonous, closing my eyes, I would say it's sales. Every sale, every deal is different, and every conversation is different. So now the perks. Obviously, sales is the highest paid jobs in the market, and one thing is, if you like challenges, you have to be in sales. Make money, be in sales. Don't like desk or don't like monotonous job, be in sales.
So we are almost, we're just concluding the session. So like you said, we can easily get away with any poop or something. So that happened. This is a pre-recorded session. So just to get back on where we left. So Francis, I personally and thoroughly, enjoyed the entire session. The entire session was really insightful. Truly enjoyed it, and the best part was, the answers and the insights which you actually shared. They were really to the point, precise, and I'm sure that if someone would actually be reviewing this session, or probably even your videos would be now there on Seco, I'm sure that probably the people would actually help to grow in their career, or even choose sales as an option to move ahead in their career path. So thank you so much, Francis. Thoroughly enjoyed the session.
Thank you so much.